Hello, it's Scott Manley here with Archibald Kerman on the surface of Duna. He was the individual that pushed forth the rover project. He was the lead astro Kerbal designer. He is responsible for maintaining it. So right now, he's just trying to get the thing hooked up to the base. And he wants this pipe endpoint. This one specifically. Come on, grab it. It's nice to be able to jump really high. Just be careful you don't bang your head on this this thing here. On this girder. Come on, grab. Nope. Come on, grab. Oh, come on. Archibald. Oh, you're not an EVA guy, are you? Okay, let's try and jump on this thing. Yeah, it's Archibald Kerman. He was a big fan of driving, so he was the one that really wanted this rover thing to happen. He worked hard with the designers to make sure that it fitted his requirements for being able to drive all over the surface. Unfortunately, Archibald Kerman is something of a health addict, and therefore didn't want to be tempted by having large amounts of snacks on board. So therefore, it only has 1 day worth of snacks, but it has about 10 days worth of oxygen and water. So you can drive long distances, but you start to get really, really hungry. Okay, come on. Let's get this one on here. Come on. Yes, brilliant. Now we have all this. We just need to get back inside and we can start processing the science on this rover. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can repair these solar panels for some reason. I thought it was going to be possible to repair these, but maybe that's something that disappeared with one of the mods. Who knows? Or maybe it's something that was previously in one of the mods. It's so hard to tell these days. Well, let's take a look at the atmospheric analysis we collected on the way down. It's very hard to take readings, as every few minutes you have to dust iron oxide off the sensors. That's very good. So we're going to basically labify these things so that we can get the maximum amount of transmissible science. And then we'll transmit that back to the planet Kerbal. Let's bring out all the solar panels as well. We don't want to be finding that we're running out of power for our expedition. Got a lot of power here, but it'll still be challenged by the amount of transmitting we have to do. The material reacts to the situation and gets analysed and gets transmitted. Transmit the data. Yay, science, check out the data we got. The red colour excites the goo and makes it even more excited when we analyse it in our labs. But having spent the night on our side, Archibald decides that it is important to attempt to reorient the spacecraft into its intended configuration. And to do that, he's going to use the Kerbal attachment system's ability to add and attach and reattach thrusters. So we're going to take these thrusters, which we needed for the lander, right? The landing thrusters are going to be reattached in a 90 degrees orientation so that we can torque the whole vehicle around its base and hopefully lift the whole thing up successfully. That will mean that they will no longer be worrying that the doors are where the windows should be and the windows are where the doors should be. It's all so confusing. They'll also not have to worry about sleeping on the walls, and most importantly, the plumbing will be oriented correctly because they've been using space toilets for the last, few months, and they would really like a proper one that actually works with the aid of gravity. One of the problems with going poo in space is that gravity, you don't really appreciate how useful gravity is in removing the poo from your butt. So you have to do that manually in space, just for those people, that are interested. Not the most pleasant experience, but anyway, Archibald attaches the thrusters and steps back to what he thinks is a safe distance, but what other people might consider to be suicidally close. And we just investigate. He just admires it, makes sure that everything is configured correctly for the vehicle's next little jaunt. We've got to close down these panels, not because they're going to get in the way, but they might get broken if the thing falls over the other way. And we're just going to retract, and of course everybody that has OCD is going like, why isn't he using action groups? I'm not using action groups because I only need to do half of them, of course. Not that I had action groups set up, but never mind. Shut down the engines. Half the engines need to get shut down. All three on top, those are all definitely going the wrong way. And there's this little one underneath, which might actually be useful on its own, but we're going to shut off initially. Shut down that engine. And that's looking good. These engines are activated, but according to the staging diagram, they have no fuel. Brilliant. Kerbal attachment system. Why don't these things have any fuel? I would really like to have fuel in my engines. That's why I attached them to a fuel tank. I understand that writing mods can be complicated, and following every fuel route possible might be difficult, but that's why I attached them directly to a fuel tank. Yes, zero thrust. It is not just even an artifact of the UI. There is no thrust coming out of these engines connected directly to the fuel tank. That is great. Archibald, what's the report? Yes, let's try turning them on and off. Not good. Not good, not good, not good. Shut down. Abort. Activate. No good. Nothing here. Archibald, he's like, I connected them directly to the fuel tank. What else do you want me to do? Who designed this attachment system thingy? Why do you give us engines that we can attach and reattach if there's no way to actually make them work, sir? Oh dear. Yeah, well, it was a long shot at best, but I'm not going to give up. Maybe there's something I can do to the save file or something to make this work. I don't know. But let's try just this little one. This little one on the bottom is actually kind of pointing the right way. So if I fold up this landing gear, there's a small chance, that they will all point the correct direction. This landing gear ended up kind of not quite the direction I had intended. But, well, it works. Okay, so here we go. Let's try using this one little engine. Ah, come on! Nothing at all. Let's try wobbling it using the torque that is built into it. Okay. Nothing at all. Okay, well, now you see my predicament. I think I might have to resort to extreme measures. I'm going to go look at save file editing and various other things, and I might even resort to the debug menu. Oh dear, but don't worry, I'll play fair. Let's go. Okay, well, I resorted to the debug menu. Let's see how this works. Engines firing. See, they fire now, but they don't use any fuel. I will make sure I dump the fuel. Oh, we're moving downhill, picking up some speed. This may not be safe. Let's let this slow down a little. Maybe I need to fold it. I think landing gear has slightly higher friction coefficients. Okay. Up. Nope, it's not going up. That's great. Okay, so what now? Okay, what can I do? I guess I can add this engine to the mix. What I'm afraid of is that it was taking too long, and if this thing flips over, then I'll have to redo it again. Okay, now we're moving that way. But nothing's breaking off the spacecraft yet. So far, so good. Okay, let's raise these legs on this side. What we're going to do is only raise half of the spacecraft, and then I'll flip these legs out as it comes down. Having these extra ones should at least make it unlikely to flip all the way over and pummel us into the ground, and cause me to be embarrassed. Okay. It's also kind of worrying because the life support is on the side, and it's entirely possible if it rolls too fast that breaks off. Okay, come on. Yes, we're getting up. Now stop, and just hold that position. I'm using the torque to maybe hold the position a little. Lower the legs, lower those legs, and we're starting to fall. Engines! Come on, all the way up again. Yes, that's exactly what we want. quickly. Now just hold it there as I'm trying to lower these legs. Come on. Yes. Oh. And... Come on. Yes. Yes. At last, through the power of the debug menu, we have managed to loft ourselves upright. And I will be sure to dump a bunch of fuel later. But really, you know, you can't get mad at me for using the debug menu. It was Kerbal attachment system that failed to perform as expected. And I merely used the powers of the debug menu to salvage an otherwise untenable situation. And so we settle in for a little more time on the surface of Duna, watching the sun set on this high plains of Duna. We also get to see the moon Ike sitting in the sky, but it doesn't set, it just kind of librates on the horizon. And we watch the stars come out, the galaxy. This is the view of stars from an alien planet. Speaking of alien planets, after all that kerfuffle on the surface of Duna, we really need to launch some more missions. Now, we're getting very close to the launch or the transfer window for Jool, so I'm pretty much sending yet another variant of this nuclear-powered lander, which really is kind of showing its age. I probably could do it with something much, much cooler, but this is what I've got. Now, subtle modifications here is that I have made the fuel tanks on the side. Those are actually space probes now. The idea is that they have RCS tanks, and I will be able to land the spacecraft on the surface with a seismometer and leave these tanks in orbit and then let them smash into the surface because they'll be controllable. They'll also act as communication satellites. But yeah, this one we're not sure where it's going. I think I've called this the Jool lander. Yeah, Jool lander, but it could land on either Val or Bop or Paul. All of those are viable targets. Tylo is a target, but it is not one from which we could really get science. There's a minor, tiny chance that we could land there, but I'm not sure. It depends on how much Delta V we have on landing. Okay, so a little bit of maneuvering. We get ourselves an encounter a couple of 100 days out. And so, we of course set up a maneuver node, or set up an alarm clock and watch the satellite shoot off into space. There we go. 265 days away. I'm pretty sure I'll have warp drive technology by then, but, well, it'll be like driving a vintage car, won't it? And so, after a night on Duna, we get to watch the sunrise on these alien plains. Alien planets, whatever. Technically, we're not the first. I guess that's the place, that's east of here. So we landed slightly east. We maybe bring that spacecraft over here so we can refuel it on what's left. I've obviously dumped the right amount of fuel. And there the sun rises over the mountains on Duna to a barren wasteland, but a wasteland in which Archibald hopes to find some evidence of microbial life or something else. And Sean, well, he hasn't told us what he's looking for yet. But it falls to Archibald Kerman to make the first real scientific excursion on the surface of Duna. Being one of the principal contributors to the rover project, he is the one chosen to give the vehicle its first shakedown test drive. Now, the mechanical systems have been tested literally to destruction in the case of the solar panels on that long automated drive to the base. But this is going to be the first real drive with a passenger, and therefore the first real drive that has life support being tested. Now, there is a target that Sean wants to get to, but he thinks it's going to take more than a day, which is going to be a problem given the low levels of life support on this vehicle. But our Archibald is pretty certain that the thing will be up to the task. And indeed, he's going to be driving this thing nice and fast because he wants to collect more science while flying at Duna. See, if you do it just right, you can come off the lip of a hill, get airborne get a mystery goo observation from the air just above the surface of Duna. Let's give this a go here. Oh, no. You see, this is it. Gonna bounce, gotta wait. No, nothing there. Come on. Does he do it? Does he do it this time? Does he do it this time? And no, that's from the surface. How about this little bump here? And there you go. He got air. Yes, so you get this way to get airborne science if you have rovers is you just travel fast enough and then you leave the ground. Because science is an instantaneous observation in this case, there's no requirement to stay airborne for a specific amount of time, which is something we might be worth considering adding to future versions if you want to stop this kind of behavior. We really shouldn't be encouraging this kind of Dukes of Hazzard getting air. But anyway, 400 meters out, there is the first fragment. The first fragment is coming into range, and we flew straight past it. Great. Oh man, this thing does not turn well, but it does do a nice little handbrake turn there. You see that? Yes, Archibald Kerman. Okay, so we're getting close to the target here. What is this? Well, it looks like a flat piece of... Ooh, I think this is some of the undercarriage. Wait a second. If this is the undercarriage of the plane as it crashed, why is it not deployed? That's interesting. I wonder if B9 automatically folds it away. Perhaps there's some failsafe mechanism. It looks like it still has power. From here, raise gear, lower gear. And it opens up. How interesting. Graceful, and he admires the engineering behind undercarriage, but surely if this came off the spacecraft, it should have been deployed, unless something broke it on the way down. The mystery of this landing gear confuses Archibald. It's almost more interesting than the search for microbial life on the planet of Duna. It appears that he does his jumping up in the air and spinning around dance to signify the mystery of the situation, and then radios his findings back to base. But while that landing gear may be interesting in its configuration, he doesn't have a full forensics lab to collect any further information for it, and he lacks the ability to move that piece of hardware across the Dunan surface back to base so that it can be investigated further. So he moves on to the main crash site. Here he can see there's a few pieces of hardware from the stricken aircraft laying on the surface of the Duna, being slowly covered by the dust, but no doubt preserved well. He does not see a body at this range. He would have expected to find, perhaps, Enming Kerman gripping the control column with a giant smile on his face as he realised he was the first Kerbal motorcyclist on Duna, travelling at over 200 kilometres per hour. It looks like he's going to have to get out. Applying the brakes, he gets to take a look at what's left here. Oh, yeah, takes a little step onto the surface, and it looks like, well, this is a wing hinge. This should be worth investigating. After all, if you recall, the wings did not hinge correctly after their time spent stowed in space. There is scientific data to be found on this scientific instrument. Again, perhaps there is something that can be told, something that useful that can be sent back or analysed or give some clues to what happened. But there is no sign of Enming Kerman. Whether he was buried already by the sand is unknown. Sean, of course, upon hearing this, wants to investigate the site himself and tells Archibald this. Archibald, of course, is the engineer and therefore is quite happy to deign responsibility for this search and recovery effort to the higher-ranking officer. So he just concerns himself with getting back in the rover and heading back to base with the new data he has collected. Now, those of you who paid attention to the Elite video yesterday will know what I actually spent most of my time doing this week. Instead, after many failed attempts, I did come up with a solution, but instead I launched another lander towards Joule because I figured that actually there's quite a few places we can go and collect size. So this is a slightly modified version of that lander. You notice we changed the main engine on this. That has a little more thrust than the Rockomax Skipper, although it is slightly less efficient, but all in all, it still gets into space just as fast and just as efficiently. Actually faster, to be honest. Gets up there and we jettison this. We have another slight variation on the fuel tanks as space probes, incidentally, because I lost the design for the other one and had to recreate it. So this spacecraft of exploration is going to be named the Bop/Paul/Val lander, and will hopefully hit one of those targets softly enough that it will be considered a landing. But anyway, it's going to head off, and again, it'll be 200 or something days before it gets there. But the next episode will hopefully be a little sooner than that. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.